Hey, what it do, y'all? Welcome to the channel. This is Phantom Frequency, where we dive into the entire multiverse that is known as pop culture, music, movies, TV, anime, all of that and more. We talk about it around here. It could be a big blend or just one or the other, but make sure you're jumping below the video if you're digging the vibe and want to support the channel and be a part of this awesome fandom community today. We just got over 450 subscribers, if I'm not mistaken. So let's keep it going and try to at least reach that goal of 500 by the end of the year. We got a little over a month to go. But today it's time for us to finally dive back into our pop culture show where we dive into all the biggest news topics of the week. A little bit of a shorter episode, but nonetheless, it's here. Episode 14 of What's the Word, y'all? And like I said, we talk about all the different pop culture news topics in the pop culture zeitgeist today. But now we got to get into a big one. And as a Scream fan, you can maybe see in the background here, we got some Scream 7 news, my friends. Some Scream 7 news. And that is the casting choice of Sidney Prescott's daughter is going to be none other than the actress Isabel May, who is famous for doing Yellowstone, as you can see in the image there. And she's also known for doing, what was the other thing that she's known for doing? I can't remember at the moment, but she's an up-and-coming actress that's been proving her worth, and a lot of people say she's got some pretty good chops. And she recently just got cast to play Sidney Prescott's oldest daughter, I would assume, in Scream 7, which is going to be dropping April of 2026, if I remember correctly. So we still got about a year and a half or so until we're going to be getting that film. And the other thing that was confirmed in the Deadline article I was reading about this from was the fact that, and we discussed this recently on the channel as well, that Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers is returning to the film and the franchise as a whole. And of course, we're going to be centering around Neve Campbell's Sidney Prescott. It's going to be directed by the original writer and creator of everything we know as Scream and Once Upon a Time, known as Scary Movie, with the original screenplay. Kevin Williamson is returning to the franchise. He's directing the film, which is awesome. It's going to be really interesting to see what visual flair and things of that nature he brings to the franchise, and having a complete understanding of it, I think, is going to be very beneficial to the overall kind of tapestry of the film, if so to speak. And it's very interesting because we only saw Sidney Prescott had a daughter or two with her when we saw the scene with her getting a call from Dewey in Scream 5, where she had very young children, and we don't know exactly how many children she has. She never specifically said. So I would assume she has 2 to 3 daughters, and Isabel May would be the oldest version that we didn't see yet in the franchise. And they said there's going to be 2 main storylines for the film. One obviously centering on Isabel May's character here, and then one centering on, of course, the legend herself, Sidney Prescott, and everything going on with the older, more middle-aged characters. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Ghostface killer reveal is obviously going to be and all that. But it's going to be really interesting to see them step into somewhere like Seattle or wherever they're going to be, jumping to a whole nother state once again, because Scream 2, I think we went to Ohio with the college setting, and then obviously the rest of the franchise minus Scream 3 took place in Hollywood, and then Scream 4, 5, and 6, or Scream 4 and 5, my bad, all both took place in Woodsboro. Scream 6 jumped over to New York City, and now we're going to be jumping over to Seattle, Washington, if I'm not mistaken. So getting to go to the hometown of grunge is going to be very interesting to see in the Scream franchise as well. Is Ghostface going to get a new look? What other details are going to emerge as the film progresses and gets underway filming in December? So I just can't wait to see what the hell is going to happen with Scream 7. Obviously, I'm a huge Scream fan. I have been for most of my life. It is my all-time favorite horror film. So I love so many things about this franchise. And even though Scream 6 got a little bit too crazy with people getting stabbed and the suspension of disbelief, overall, and the killer reveal wasn't the best, but the fact that there was 3 ghost faces was really cool. But the execution of who they were and some of the performances I thought fell a little flat or didn't quite live up to the hype. So overall, if Scream 7 can come through with a good vibe, some good competent directing out of Kevin Williamson, some good character work as we're used to seeing in the Scream franchise as a whole, and we get a really good killer reveal and motivation to go alongside all that with some cool kills, I think we can get one of the better entries in the Scream franchise once again. And I think the Scream franchise is on a high right now, minus some of the controversy with the Carpenter twins actresses of Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera. I still think there's a lot of potential for the Scream franchise to continue on with Isabel May and other new characters in the younger generation. And potentially bringing back the Carpenter sisters is always a possibility. So I'm super hyped for it. Y'all let me know your hype level for Scream 7 coming out in April of 2026. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And hopefully Isabel May can step into the shoes of Sidney Prescott and really deliver a really kick-ass final girl, if you will. But yeah, man, so really cool shit. I can't wait to see it. But But y'all let me know what you think about that down below. And now we're going to get into the next topic here, which is Alien Earth, which did have some recent updates for its release date, kind of a release time, and also confirm a detail of when the film is going to be set in the Alien timeline. The first thing being the release date is going to be summer of 2025. So we're going to be getting that within the next 6 months, 5 or 6 months or so, on FX and Hulu for streaming. FX for those that still haven't pulled the plug. For those few of you out there, you know what I'm saying? And the other cool thing that they actually confirmed in this is that it's going to be set in the year of 2120, which is only 2 to 3 years before the original Alien film is set. So it's going to be very, very cool to see a xenomorph or some kind of hybrid or some kind of new version of the xenomorph coming down to Earth, fucking around with Earthlings and things like that, set in the same time period of the original Alien film before they jumped many, many years in the future in Aliens. This is taking place back in that time. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the 2100s are like on Earth in this world. Is Weyland-Yutani going to be involved in trying to capture these xenomorphs or be on top of this? Are they aware of all these things leading into the original Alien? And if we do see original xenomorphs, will we see new versions and vice versa? There's so many cool possibilities with the series. Noah Hawley from Legion and different shows of that nature, and I think Fargo is going to be taking over the show running duties of this show. He's been, I think, the one that pitched it and has been with it from the beginning. So he's the one in charge. I didn't watch all of Legion, but I did watch episodes here and there, and it was a really cool, trippy show with some really great actors and some great performances out of Dan Stevens and Aubrey Plaza, respectfully. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen with this series, especially after Fede Alvarez finally got the franchise back on track with Romulus earlier in the summer, like back in August. And that's one of my favorite movies of the year still right now. There's quite a few horror films I need to catch up on, and there's still a few more releases coming this year, like Nosferatu, Sonic 3, and even Kraven the Hunter, right? So there's a lot of stuff still to come out for the rest of the year. So it's going to be very interesting to see where Alien Romulus stacks up on my top 10, but it's definitely a contender nonetheless. And the Alien franchise is finally back on track. So I'm hyped for this series. I can't wait to see it. FX does a lot of quality TV series as well. So I think it's going to be pretty kick-ass. But y'all let me know if you're looking forward to this and what do you think about it being set right around the same time as the original film, but just a couple years prior. I think it's a great idea, but y'all let me know what you think about it and if you're hyped for summer 2025 to be where someone's going to hear you scream on Earth because there's aliens on it. So as we get into this next topic here, Javier Bardem has been tapped to be cast in a Cape Fear series as the main killer or antagonist, if you will, of Max Cady or Max Caddy. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. It's been a minute since I watched the original or the remake. But we got Martin Scorsese coming back as the director of the remake, and we got Steven Spielberg coming on as executive producers to do this series for Apple TV Plus, which I think is very interesting because I know they have thrillers and different things like that on their service. I don't have it personally, but I don't really think they've dived too much into horror or more so horror thriller stuff as much as other genres, but I think they have dived more into the thriller side of things. So it's going to be really cool to see Javier Bardem play a serial killer again, I guess, or a killer, whatever the proper term is. But getting to see Javier Bardem step back into one of these darker roles, I think is going to be really, really cool because I loved him in the Dune movies. And I thought he did a great job playing a much different character than Anton Chigurh from the movie that really put him on the map, No Country for Old Men, from about 10 to 15 years ago. So I really dig him as an actor. I think he's very, very talented, very menacing. He's a very big dude, very big stature. So I think he'll definitely be able to step into the role and do really good. They haven't said who's going to play the couple that's supposed to be lawyers as opposed to the husband just being the lawyer and then the daughter. So no one's been confirmed for the casting of that quite yet. So I think this is still in pretty early stages. But they do have Javier Bardem attached to be in this thing as Max Cady. That's the way I'm going to say it because it sounds more natural for me to say it that way. But he's going to be playing that version of that character, a new version of that character, with the previous version being Robert De Niro, who wasn't doing a great Southern accent, but it was believable enough. And it's De Niro, so he was definitely acting his ass off. So it was really cool. It's a very solid remake with him and Nick Nolte and a very young Juliette Lewis. Much love to her, one of my favorite actresses out there. So I really can't wait to see what's going to really happen with this. And I'm very intrigued by it. Not hyped or excited, but I'm very intrigued by this project. And it might actually get me to sign up with Apple TV Plus, even if it's for a short time, just to be able to watch this, especially when you got Scorsese involved, who still makes really kick-ass movies and is one of the best directors of all time, along with Spielberg being one of the GOATs as well. So I think there's a lot of promise with that. And with Javier Bardem playing a crazed killer, hell yeah, I think he's going to be able to pull that off. A convicted killer, I think he'll be able to pull that off very good. So I am very curious to see where that's going to go. But y'all let me know if you want to see another version of Cape Fear on the small screen or any screen at all. And now we got the last topic of the day. Robert Pattinson himself, has been cast in the upcoming Christopher Nolan movie that is going to be coming out in the summer of 2026. So we got another big thing coming out there in 2026. I tell you guys, these next 2 years for movies and TV are so fucking stacked. I'm hyped just as a fan and even for the channel and in tandem with each other, just enjoying all this cool content. Obviously, something's going to be disappointing at some point, but who cares? Right now, there's a lot of hype going into 2026, especially because we got Christopher Nolan, one of the GOATs directors of today, super goated in my opinion. You know what I mean? Got to get that Gen Z talking here, but no, I'm playing. But one of the best directors of all time, one of my personal favorites, is tapping Robert Pattinson to be in another film with him because they actually worked on Tenet together just a few years ago, right before the pandemic, and then the film released during the pandemic. But Robert Pattinson has grown into such an incredible actor, and obviously he's got the Batman Part 2 coming up as well in the same year. So he has a really stacked year right there between Batman Part 2 and this new Christopher Nolan movie. And there's no confirmed premise or storyline or anything like that. All we know so far is just the casting information. So we got Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland, Zendaya, and now Robert Pattinson, all officially a part of the cast. And I'm really praying, dude. I'm like the guy in freaking Superbad. I'm literally getting down and praying. Like, I want to see a Christopher Nolan horror movie, man. Let's make it happen. Do it, Christopher Nolan. Come on, man. I want to see a horror film from one of the best filmmakers of our time. Tarantino hasn't really given us one outside of Death Proof, so I really want to see one of the GOATs really get to tackle that genre. And someone with so much prestige doing horror, I think, would get a lot of shine and have to make the Academy and all these snobby people in Hollywood have to show horror a little more respect and love, especially when you got people like Robert Eggers and all these other guys and girls out here really making some excellent films over there at A24 and Neon and all that stuff. So I think getting to see Christopher Nolan do horror would really be a great thing for the overall genre. I think it'd be really cool getting to see him do something completely different than a lot of the stuff he's done in the past, even though The Prestige dived into some of those thriller elements. And obviously the film Insomnia was a straight up crime thriller, but I want to see him do a true blue horror film. Doesn't have to be a ton of gore, doesn't have to be a slasher or anything like that, but I'd really love to see a horror film from the mind of Christopher Nolan. So that's just my personal thing. Y'all let me know what genre you want to see him do, and if you're excited to see the Pattinson up in a Christopher Nolan movie once again. I still haven't seen Tenet. I got to see that in Dunkirk, but I've seen pretty much all the rest of his movies, so those are the only two missing. Excuse me. Sorry for the disgusting noise. I have allergies. But yeah, I'm a big Christopher Nolan guy. I'm definitely a fan of Pattinson, so cannot wait to see what's going to happen with that. But that's the short and sweet episode we got for you this week of What's the Word. We got some really cool topics we were discussing today, y'all. So we're going to catch you again next week for another episode. My boy, the GOAT, the best rapper alive, in my opinion, right now, Kendrick Lamar, just dropped a new album, GNX, today, out of nowhere, as of the recording of this video, Friday, November 22nd. So look out for a full-on track-by-track review coming from me by the end of the weekend or this coming week and everything like that. I'm going to have probably like an immediate reaction type thing to the album going up on the channel, so look out for that on the shorts. But I'm going to have a full-on, in-depth review dropping by Monday the latest. I'm trying my best to get it out by then, and I got some other cool, fun topics we're going to be getting into. Another fun collab coming up here this weekend that I'm going to be dropping next week, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for all that and more. We got a lot of cool stuff coming to y'all on the channel before the end of the year. But until next time, y'all, make sure you stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next episode of What's the Word. Peace.